So Kings Point had the distinction back in '65 of being the highest paid graduates in the world. So when I graduated in '69 with a Bachelor of Science degree, starting pay for us was about $120,000 a year. So '69, that was a lot of money.
Got it. Okay, so you're working at Xerox, and then at age 30, back in '77, you decided to start your first company,
Right.
which was called Rippers.
Right. Well, you've done your work. You've done your work.
Thank you. Thank you. And these are like the surfer-style nylon Velcro wallets, which I remember as a kid, I used to have. I don't know if it was a Rippers wallet, but those wallets were really popular, during like the late '70s, early '80s. I remember this.
So we took that wallet to Korea. We had them make them, and we imported them back to the States. And so that was my first product. We made Runner's World magazine. We made, what was other, mine's getting me, but we were very, very successful. So the wallets were taking off all over the world, and I was out of money. We couldn't supply the demand. It takes a lot of money to buy inventory. So we're out of wallets. And then my CFO at the time, I didn't trust the guy. But anyway, because he was willing to work basically for free. Anybody who does something different is criticized. I'm sure you have your critics. I have my critics.
Right.
So Earhart Seminars Training was creating such powerful changes in people's lives that naturally got criticized. But I went to listen to it it was 2 days, two days trainings in Honolulu. And I came out of there, and that's when I realized I better change me. If I want to change the world, change me. Mm. And that was a powerful statement, because I could blame the world or I could change me. I was born in Honolulu, and when I was younger, my father moved to another island. Poor dad moved to the Big Island. So we went from the big city to a small sugar plantation town called Hilo, Hawaii. And it's the farthest city south in America. So when I say to people I'm from the deep south, I really am from the deep south. It's farther south than Florida. I got more than left. I got court-martialed.
Oh.
I have disciplinary, like Trump, he and I are good friends. We had disciplinary problems. We weren't, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, but we're Americans. So I had 5 uncles fight in Europe against the Italians and the Germans. And I had 2 uncles fight against the Japanese in World War II. And one uncle was captured. And I found out, I had met a guy named R. Buckminster Fuller, a guy that invented the geodesic dome and all that. And so all through my life, I studied Bucky Fuller, and he got to me. One day I was teaching, I was with him at a seminar outside of, Reno, Nevada. And he asked the question, he says, what does God want you to do? I'm not really religious. I'm not pitching anything here. He says, all of us are born with a purpose in life. He says, what does God want you to do? So I joined the U.S. Marine Corps, proving I'm not the brightest guy in the box. I went from making $48,000 a month to $200 a month. No, $48,000 a year to $200 a month. And it was a shock. So I went from this, nice cars, all that stuff, to making $200 a month as a Marine lieutenant. And I go to flight school in Pensacola, Florida. And I go into Vietnam. I went to Camp Pendleton, California. I flew the helicopter gunship because I was going to fly the C-130 400 prop job. And it was the most boring thing. I flew once from Pensacola, Florida to California. I said, this is boring. Suddenly, Vlad, out of pure luck, I was in rock and roll. And as they say, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I loved it, man. I was so much fun. I was selling silk screens. So I got a wallet, and I silk screen the police on it. I got a hat, silk screen the police on it, and got all this stuff. And I silk screen Van Halen, Boy George, and all this. Same problem, that too much success. We couldn't finance the inventory. You know what I mean? It's success is not, and again, it was another lesson, but thank God I had the lessons before that. And it's just been one big experience to keep learning. He took that check, cashed it, and paid off his investors. So I was out of money. I thought all my investors, including my poor dad, and we went down. And so that was one of the first lessons kind of I learned about real life is you got to be careful who you do business with. And just because a guy's a CPA and another guy's got his MBA doesn't mean they're honest people. And that's really one of the hardest things I had to learn is a college degree doesn't mean you're honest. As you know that, I know that, but I know that now. And the whole business went down because Stanley ran off with the money. So while everybody was learning about whatever learning economics, he was teaching us about communism. And my economics teacher was a West Point graduate, Army. And he flew B-17s in World War II, and he went down 3 times. So I'm listening to this guy. He's a real stud, you know what I mean? West Point, bomber pilot, went on, got shot down, went to Harvard, came back as economics teacher. And he's talking to me about what it's like to get shot down and get captured. I'm going, holy mackerel, that sounds kind of like fun, you know? And the sad thing, Vlad, is that it's now here in America. You know, academic system are communists. Just like my poor dad was actually a Marxist, you know, because he never read the Communist Manifesto. But he believed in teachers' union. He believed in the abolition of private property. He believed in taxing the rich. All these things Marx proposed. But because most school teachers have never read the Communist Manifesto, we're teaching communism to our kids today. That's one of my favorite sayings also. In other words, these guys who are financial planners are sales guys.
Yeah.
They're not rich people. They're not really investors.
Right.
And so I'm not saying it's wrong, but I don't have a 401k. I don't save money, and I don't invest in the stock market. I am an entrepreneur. I can create my own assets. Well, the absolute truth is my dad never graduated from college.
Oh.
What happened was he was so smart, poor dad, that he got his bachelor's in 2 years. They gave it to him because he was so far ahead of the thing. And then he went, he became a professor at not Arizona State, but University of Hawaii. And so I grew up in kind of the professor type role. And then he went to Stanford, University of Chicago, Northwestern. But even then, he never got a degree, but they gave him an honorary PhD because he was so smart.